Hello, everyone. My name is Kat Clark, and I will be the host of the Career Ready by Alumni webinar series. It's been a pleasure to guide you through some of the elements of the ever-changing life after Mohawk scene that we are getting used to here in 2020. And I'm a graduate of the television broadcasting program from back in 2010. I'm also the vice chair of the Alumni Advisory Council. It's been a pleasure to be a part of Mohawk College and the Alumni Council since graduating, and it's been so great to get to know all of you through these great webinar series and help you prepare for life after Mohawk. Today's webinar is part of the Career Ready webinar series. It's all about job searching during a pandemic today. This Career Ready webinar series hopes to help students get ready for the future, and with the ever-changing environment, looking forward to that future, and job hunting during the pandemic has certainly changed things. So we've brought in an expert today to help you prepare for what that could look like. Shelley Omond is a career coach with over 20 years experience in human resource management, student advising, and career coaching. As a career coach at Mohawk College, Shelley has extensive experience working with students on career development, resume creation, and preparing for an interview. She is also the HRIS manager at a major university responsible for HRIS services in over 5,000 employees working in education, engineering, research, administration, clinical programs, health sciences, and medical clinics. So she is the perfect expert to help you out today in this job search during a pandemic environment. We are so excited to have you with us today, Shelley. Welcome to the Mohawk College Alumni Career Ready webinar series.
Well, thanks, Kat. Yes, I think for me, working at the college and also being a career coach gives me that other side. What is it that hiring managers are looking for? So I like to share that information with students on how to get across behavioral interviewing, which we do. So how to work with the student to be able to get their skills and abilities across to the hiring manager, both in their resume and at the interview. So I quite enjoy working with students to have them, as one person put, fly at the interview. So it's been a wonderful experience for me working here at Mohawk College.
Terrific. Thanks for taking the time to be with us today, Shelley. We're going to jump right in, dive right into the questions, and just a reminder for everyone watching, you can use that chat feature if you have a question for Shelley. So we will jump right in. Our first question, we are going to start with job searching. Obviously, it can be very stressful in a regular situation. How do you recommend that people structure their day to have a more effective job search? And, as an example, having an end time that they have to be finished by.
I think having a structure for your day is most important. So creating a schedule of what your short-term goals are, goals for that day, and having a routine. And remember, when you have a schedule, it's just not a schedule for your resume and for your job search. It's also a schedule for other things as well. So you might set up the morning, maybe you're going to do half an hour of working on your resume, you might be doing some job searching, but you're making sure you've got that time scheduled. We all seem to like to have that. It gives us some confidence, we know what's going on, and you don't want to burn yourself out by doing all kinds of job searching in one day, right? So you're going to pace yourself and set up a routine. Maybe you do internet searching in the morning for half an hour, your resume, so you get things set down in certain time frames. And it's not about getting a lot done, it's about doing the important stuff. So what really matters to you. And also remember to do daily affirmations, because doing job searches and if you get an interview, that's great, but if you don't, it can be a little bit disheartening. So you want to do daily affirmations. You might be, I'm excited to learn something new today. If I fail, I'll get right back up. Everything is possible. So you're working on these things to keep your spirits up and your motivation, and listen to motivational videos on YouTube or TED Talk. They have a number of different ones. I'm going to give you some handouts later that Lindsay can send out to you. And one of them is one very uplifting type of information that you want to listen to keep your spirits up. And some people get an accountability partner. So that's somebody that's going to help you keep your commitments and keep on track, and then know your why. I think your purpose in life of why you want to do something, your integrity, what it is that you really want and want to achieve. And those are important things to know. and I have a video for that as well. So all of that is important in keeping that schedule.
That's terrific. Very good point. Now, there are so many websites out there that students can go to search for jobs. What would you say are the most popular job sites and some tips for using them correctly?
Great. So normally I would suggest sites like Indeed, Workopolis, Glassdoor, but with the pandemic, I also suggest the Job Bank of Canada, because they're listing jobs with each of the sectors that are hiring. Like for right now, with the COVID, there's a lot of jobs that are in the agro-food sector. There's jobs in essential services. There's jobs working from home. Sometimes right now in COVID, you might not be looking for your career job. You might be just looking for a temporary job while there's temporarily the COVID going on. You can consider doing volunteer. So there's volunteer sites. And again, I'll send you a link of these. The government ones, federal and provincial, have been very helpful in providing us areas where employers are hiring right now. Charitable organizations, transportation, IT, health, of course, retail. I mean, Walmart's been out hiring quite a few more people in their area. A lot of the retail shoppers, drug marts, financial and insurance companies like Sun Life, Manulife, they've all been hiring. Probably my top ones again, except for the federal and provincial government, would be Indeed, LinkedIn, of course, setting up your LinkedIn profile, we'll talk about later, and things like the Glassdoor, who's hiring in Hamilton. So there's a lot of different areas. And again, I'll send out that link with the listing of the companies that are hiring in our area, as well as the government links for resources for employers hiring in the whole Niagara Horseshoe area.
Terrific. Those are awesome resources to have. And like you mentioned, there's so many different places that students are looking and so many different job opportunities now. How do you recommend staying organized while you're on the job hunt?
So it is important to stay organized, and there's a few things that you can do. You're applying for a number of positions lots of times when you're going out and doing that. So I recommend that you create a file folder for your jobs, like a job folder, and then within that job folder, create a file for each job you're applying to. That way you can put in the resume and cover letter that you sent to that particular employer. You can put other things in there. The job posting is important because once we go to the point of interviewing, we take the job posting down. So you want to be able to have that available and have it organized in the file folder under the job you applied for. That helps keep you organized. The other thing you want to do is create an overall spreadsheet so that you can track who you applied to and when you applied. And you can do that in Excel or Google Sheets. There's a number of different spreadsheets you can use. Very simple, but one line per place you've applied to with the information. If you get an interview, the interview date. So you can try to track all of that in a general spreadsheet. Some people like to do it in their phone. If that's the way you're often with your phone, then use an app for that. You can also, some people are say, hey, you know what, I'm old school. I like the writing it down. Just get a notebook and use that specifically for that, one page for each one. That works well as well. And then you want to make sure that you simplify your job search. One thing that I find is sometimes when we're out there wanting to apply, we see all kinds of jobs and we're like, okay, I'm going to put my name into all of them. But you want to be very selective. If the job is asking for something that you don't have and you're like, okay, I might be able to get this job, then go ahead and apply. But if you look at they want an experienced person or someone who's had 5 years in the job and you're like, okay, you have to make that judgment call. But remember, it takes a lot of work to do that cover letter and resume. So kind of take your time and identify which are the ones that are your best options to go forward with. So be selective. I know that's a lot for keeping organized.
And you kind of touched on this. Yeah, you kind of touched on this there too. We wanted to talk about effectively researching companies in your field, and you kind of started to hint at that, but maybe you could expand a little more on that effective research piece.
So researching a company is very important. Besides pay and benefits, I think they say 43% of candidates stay with the job because of the work. So you have to enjoy what you're doing. And so when you want to research a company, first it's finding those companies, and there's some sites like Indeed has company pages, top 500 employers. There's a number of places out there to take a look at companies within your field of study. And one of the handouts I'm going to provide is a job search directory. And in that directory, it will look at associations within your field of study. So if you were in social work, for example, you might look at the social work associations. They'll often post jobs and they'll post companies and new articles and things that are going on. So use those things, use those sites to be able to start your research on the company. And then go to the company website. When you get there, take a look at the about them, take a look at their values, their mission statements. Those things are usually listed for a company. And those things will help you to know, is this the type of company I want to work for? Because again, you want a company that aligns with your values and your interests. And also the other thing is, we never ask it in an interview anything to do with benefits, but certainly while you're researching a company, pay is one thing, but what vacation, what benefits, what long-term disability, group life, major medical, education supports, what else does that company provide? And sometimes when you're doing your research, looking at that information will help you decide, hey, this is the company that I want to apply for. And then learn about the company's business. Some people tell me they like to look at the newspaper each day to look for headlines and things and trends that are going on in their field of study, because it helps to see, oh, this company is hiring, or this company's been laying off, or they're doing a merger. So what does that mean? Is this something I want to go into for that company because of what they have happening? And expand your research for any reasons, any headlines of significant events, good or bad, as I mentioned, layoff and mergers. And don't forget networking. Networking is so important. Talking to your family and friends and people that work at other companies, find out what's going on in your field of study and in your area of interest. And then set say a half hour, 5 minutes a day to do some of that research so that you can keep that up, but you're not doing it all day. You're just setting an amount of time to keep track and go through that. And be strategic with your research and how you're learning to connect to that company. You're looking at the job descriptions, the goals for the department, the vision for the company. And these things you can also use at an interview. You have to be very strategic for that, but showing what you know about a company or asking questions based on a new area that they're advancing in can show the company that you've done your homework. So sharing that as well in an interview is very helpful.
Excellent. You mentioned interviews there. We want to talk a little bit about information interviews. So how do you approach someone for an information interview, and what makes sure that they can have a successful meeting, or as you said at the beginning, fly at the end of that meeting?
Well, for informational interviews, I would probably start out casually, talk to your family, your friends, your instructor, people that you know that work in the field. And informational interviews can be very structured, or they can be very casual. And nowadays with COVID, you're going to do it over the phone, or you might do it with a Zoom or a Skype call. And so start with someone that you know that's a family, a friend that works in the field. And what you're doing is you're not asking them for a job. You're trying to find out more about how did they get into the field, what do they enjoy about the work they do, and what do they find challenging. One thing you can do if you get an informational interview with someone is take a look at their LinkedIn profile, find out more about them. If you want someone to be interested in you, be interested in them. So research them a bit. And then you're asking questions, you know, as I mentioned, you get into the field, what do you enjoy about the work, what do you find challenging? And that kind of gives you an idea. I think when we go through a program, we kind of see it as just one path, but it's such a broad area for your field of study. You will find a lot about, from that informational interview, of how vast that field is that you're going into. And then it helps you narrow down, okay, within that field, where is my interest? And the more that you do informational interview, the more you network, the more people know what you're looking for. They're going to say, oh, okay, I might know something in the field, or maybe I know someone. We can send your resume there. And then always at the end of the interview, you're thanking that person for doing an informational interview. And then always say, you know what, this was really helpful information. It would be great if I could speak to someone else to further that, and ask them if they know someone. So always use that leverage of one informational interview to get to your next one. So networking, again, is key. And always make sure when you do an informational interview, you always send an email thank you note. And then after that, link up with them on LinkedIn, because there you're building your network.
Perfect. And speaking of LinkedIn, do you have tips for interacting on LinkedIn and creating and building those meaningful connections when you're on the job hunt?
Yeah, so what you want to do is first create a LinkedIn account. If you haven't got one, contact one of the career coaches at Mohawk College. We can help you get set up. Once you have that LinkedIn, what you want to do is find your super networkers. Those are people that they know everybody, and they often post things, and they're within the field of your interest. And so you want to find them, because read through what they're posting. And then when you find something that of interest to you that they've posted, read through it, and then look at having a thoughtful comment for that. Because when you comment to one of those, instead of you maybe being able to post a topic, you might get 5 or 50 or 100 people. If you post a comment to one of those super users, you may now be connecting with 5,000 people, because 5,000 people are probably going in and looking at that person's tips and things that they're posting. So find those super users and make use of them. Make sure you put a picture out on LinkedIn. So get a picture taken that's professional. Watch your background, that you're got a plain background so that it's not busy, but do get a picture out there. And then write a catchy headline or summary about you. You might say, marketing student looking for a marketing summer position, something catchy, health management student aspiring to be a leader in health. So some catchy one, then you can give more details in the details section. But you want to get that so people will see your information and take note of what you're looking for. And remember, experience is important, but there's more than just experience. So besides getting your relevant experience out there, internship and volunteer work as well, also make sure you add other things that help you stand out. These might things like your education, the classes you've taken, languages that you speak, certifications that you've completed, and ask connections to endorse you. So if you ask your connections to write something about you, that also helps for getting people to notice you. And then of course, show your interest by building influence. So repurpose if you've done a blog before, you've done an essay within the school, you can put that into a blog, get it out there on LinkedIn, so that people start to read about your skills and your abilities. And then again, I can't overly stress how much important it is to network. So connect with your instructors, your classmates in your colleges, link up with them, because you're building your network. And don't underestimate the power of groups. On LinkedIn, they have a group section, so look at groups within your field of study, groups you're interested in, and hook up with those, because again, that's a great networking feature. And then certainly use endorsements. If you ask someone to endorse you for a specific skill or ability you have, and then also you can endorse them. Because remember, if you want to show, you want someone to show interest in you, show interest in them. So remember, you have to give to get, and networking is key.
That's a good life lesson all around, not just in the job hunt. So I appreciate that, Shelley. During this time, there may not be as many jobs available, or the jobs that are available may not be in your field. How do you recommend that people stay connected to their field of study during this time?
So there's a number of ways you can stay connected, as we mentioned, through LinkedIn, because you're going to be reading articles and making comment. You also want to look at things you can do at home. If you're looking for volunteer work or work from home, that'll keep you connected in your field. There's also Ripen. I don't know if you've heard of that, and I will send a link for that as well. And that's where companies are looking for someone to do some project for them. Like if you're in marketing, they may be looking for marketing thing that they want done. Take a look at the company, see what's involved, see how much work's involved. It might be something you want to get involved, because it's going to keep your skills active, keep you involved in the field. And not only that, it's great on your resume, because you can say the ABC company, I did this following proposal or marketing advertisement. And so these ways that you can keep active in your field while still expanding your learning. And as well, on LinkedIn, they do have, for Mohawk College current students, there's free courses out there as well. So that keeps your skills up and going. And then again, networking. So stay connected with family, friends, instructors, people in the field, through the phone, through Skype. And then of course, informational interviews. So keep that networking going. Set aside some time each day to do that networking aspect. And that helps you to keep connected.
For sure. Staying connected is also really good for your mental health as well. And you kind of mentioned, off the top, some videos and things that you can recommend for people to help keep them motivated. Is there any other tips or things that you would give to focus on that motivation and really keep people, focused and engaged during this difficult time?
Hunting is a full-time job, and it can be stressing. I think, when somebody says, you got an interview, but they didn't hire you, it's like, how do you keep that positive momentum going? Because you might not have been the best match for that company. So that's fine, because you want to find, I mean, they're trying to find the best match and you're trying to find the best match. So to stay motivated, again, it's important to have that schedule. You've got to schedule time for when you're doing your job search, also time for you, and different aspects of your job search. You don't want to spend all your time just doing one aspect like your resume. You want to mix it with your resume, your networking, your LinkedIn, informational interviews. So kind of set time up for each one of those things. And then it helps to have that schedule to know each day, these are the times you're going to spend for each thing. And then that diversity is important. It's also important if you're finding, hey, I'm getting a little stressed out, is it's good to take time for you. And if you are finding that you're like, okay, you know what, I'm having some stress, then look for a family or friend or colleague that you can chat with to talk it out. Sometimes talking those things out, it's like, oh, okay, I'm seeing it right now. It's important to do that. As I mentioned, stay organized. So having that step-by-step plan for tackling each piece of the job search, contacting us for career coaches to give you some support as well. And then also seek out emotional support. As I mentioned, it's important to talk to a family member or friend, just to help remind you, hey, you are really good, you're valued, you're tremendous. It's just right now, it's difficult times with COVID, and how some ways to get through it, and some supports on networking. And there's also that video I mentioned on Know Your Why. I really want you to see that one, because it shows the difference. It's not that long a video, but it shows the difference with somebody just doing something and then someone knowing why they're doing it. And it's a wonderful video. So I want you to see that on difference for knowing why it is you want to do something, what the field you want to get into, and being able to achieve those goals. So keeping everything in balance. So it's going to be job search, a life balance. You want to balance both time for you, because you've got to have self-care, and then time for you to be doing your job search.
For sure. And speaking of self-care, Diana just shared in the chat a couple of apps that are free for mental health help. So Headspace and Calm app. They're both free for a little while, so you can check that out for sure. And just a reminder.
Sorry, I said Headspace is a very good site.
Yeah, that's great. So so lots of great resources there. And just a reminder, like Diana, you can use that chat to ask any questions. We're going to open it up if you guys have any questions on the table. And Shelley, anything else you wanted to add, or anything you feel we've missed about job searching during a pandemic?
The only one I want to add is that now, because of COVID, instead of in-person interviews, we're doing more interviews through Zoom or Skype or Cisco WebEx meetings, Blue Jeans. There's all kinds of different ways we're doing it. So the thing you want to do is take a little bit of time, and I've done a blog on this. I don't know if it's posted yet. And that's how to set up the background of your Zoom, make sure your camera is working, how to test it out with someone else to make sure before you go for that interview that things are looking well. And of course, practice makes perfect. So practicing running through a meeting with friends beforehand, and checking that background, and making sure if you have any pets or kids or things going on that everybody knows you're having an interview meeting, and then keeping those things, the dog's in the other room. And then I also recommend too, you can take a little picture of the interviewer and put it over the camera lens, so you get practice of looking at the camera. Another one of my tips is you can put a little sticky notes around the outside of the camera of things you want to bring up. You don't want to write a book around there, but that helps you, because they can't see those sticky notes, and it'll help remind you things that you want to mention during the interview. And also dress as you would for an interview. And then the rest is making sure that you've got the background and that set up. And use a headset if you can, because it helps. I know I don't have one today, but it helps to make sure that the sound is good. And certainly write down notes, keeping notes around your screen, as I mentioned with the Post-it notes. And then making sure the interviewer is engaged. So every now and then stop, and you can see all the pictures of, sometimes we interview one-on-one, sometimes you'll see a panel, so there'll be 2 or 3 people. So just making sure that your interviewers are engaged. And always make sure after an interview, you send a new email.
Very good points. No, that's great. And we actually just did an entire webinar series about interviews. So if you missed that, you can check it out on the Mohawk College alumni page. All these webinars are posted up there after they've been recorded. So if you missed last week's, that is all about virtual interviews, you can check it out there for even more tips on top of Shelley's wonderful tips there. Shelley, thank you so much for joining us today. Everyone else, thank you for being here. It's been so great to be part of these webinar series. Join us next week for our very last webinar of the series. It's all about strategies for effective networking. And Shelley, you mentioned how incredibly important that is. So we are going to help you guys, really build up your effective networking skills, help you access that hidden job market, as well as obtain referrals, information, and support throughout career exploration process. So we're going to learn more from recent grads and how their networking has helped them get further progressed in their careers. For more information on the entire webinar series and next week's webinar, you can visit mohawkcollege.ca/alumni. Thank you all for joining us today. Bye for now.